welcome back to the Mailwright Show. It's episode 269. We're going to be meeting with the fabulous Brian Gardner, whose list of credentials is so long, I literally had to write them down. So he is the co-founder of AgentEngine. He is the former co-founder of StudioPress. He was the previous partner and chief product officer of Copyblogger. Basically, he has done a tremendous amount in the world of WordPress, and he's a personal hero of my co-host, who I'm going to use this moment to introduce, Jonathan Dindwood, the founder of Mailwright. So, John, why don't you share a little bit about yourself with the audience, and I'll wrap up with.
That's great, Robert. Like I say, it's great to have Brian on the show. Like I say, Brian has been not only involved in WordPress, he has had a consistent interest in the real estate and helping real estate agents with their digital setup, their digital world setup through StudioPress and now through AgentEngine. So he kind of combines the world of WordPress and real estate the online digital world with emphasis on the website using WordPress. So I think it's going to be a fantastic discussion between him and finding out more about AgentEngine and how he sees digital marketing, the world of digital marketing, where it's going linked to real estate. That should be fantastic, Robert.
I can't wait to ask him those questions. And I, of course, am Robert Newman. I'm the founder of Inbound Real Estate Marketing. I am an inbound marketing evangelist, and that includes things like SEO and creating value through really high value content and all sorts of great stuff. But today is all about Brian, and super excited to have him on the show. So if you don't mind, John, I'm gonna lob the first question, but because I know that you two have done shows before, and I have no doubt that you'll figure out plenty to talk about. So Brian, I don't know you. I of course know what StudioPress was. I don't think that our audience, who is mostly real estate agents and real estate brokers, would necessarily historically know what StudioPress was, and it probably informed some of your decisions to move into AgentEngine. So if you wouldn't mind, would you just mind sharing just a little bit about your transition from StudioPress into AgentEngine and maybe why you did that?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, there's probably several real estate agents out there who don't even know what WordPress is. Backing away even from StudioPress, WordPress is a content management system. I think it's one of the most, if not the popular and most widely used publishing platforms on the planet. I think it's like 35% now of the internet is powered by WordPress. About 15 years ago-ish, WordPress originally started out as a blogging platform and had quickly evolved. It's an open source piece of software that developers and designers all over the world have contributed to furthering. And so a lot of people have used it. I built my digital career around WordPress and the templating system in WordPress. They're called themes. And so I sold and designed and developed WordPress themes for about the last 13, 14 years. A couple of years ago, sold to WP Engine, which is a WordPress host. And so they bought that. I stayed on for a little while, sort of to transition the community and the product and the evolution of the brand. And so, so I'm a WordPress guy. I'm a designer by nature. I love to design. And, having been exposed to the Copyblogger ecosystem, I picked up quite a bit of knowledge around marketing and the importance of email and brand building and things like that. And so coming out of the sale of StudioPress and ultimately realizing that I've got a good 30 or 40 years ahead of me still to do work. And I kind of had some moments where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I started having some epiphanies around kind of who I wanted to do it for and what I wanted to do for them. And I've always been interested in real estate. We've bought and sold probably 10 houses over the last 15 years. I love the geographic element to real estate. And as a digital person, I feel like there was just a lot of movements I could make within that vertical, and I could bring a lot of my skills to agents and the industry as a whole, and do some stuff there.
So, which raises the question. So here you are, and now I'm using language that hopefully people will track with because they just listen to you. So you're this expert. Well, you're this very experienced theme builder. You're now focusing on real estate. So exactly what is the mission of Agent Image and Agent Engine, and how are you leveraging that experience?
So one thing I didn't mention along the way with sort of the business of my business experience is sort of the intersection I had from a life perspective around simplification. Created a movement called No Sidebar, sort of aligns with the minimalist philosophies. And so what started out as more of a lifestyle choice kind of percolated its way into my digital world where from a design perspective, I really sought out to simplify what I was working on, the types of designs that I was creating for StudioPress, the work that I would do with clients. And so Agent Engine is sort of a culmination of all of the things that I have done over the last 15 years from a design perspective, from just a general philosophy, from a marketing perspective. And we're ultimately going to create a tool that will allow real estate agents and teams to very quickly create themselves a digital presence. And from that, we hope that real estate agents, this tool will allow it for clients to make it easy to do business with them, right? Real estate agents, there's a lot of room for sort of tension between the back and forthness of the relationship and even identifying future clients and prospects and lead capture and all that kind of stuff. And we want to make it easy for agents to do business with their people. And so and the goal in that is, we want to start small and just help agents maybe close 1 or 2 properties a year. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe they can learn how to scale. But we believe that even a couple of extra closings a year, just because they have a tool system in place that makes it easy to do business with people, we hope that we can sort of change the way that they do business.
I gotcha. So it's kind of good luck for you, I would say, just a kind of an intuitive shift where the minimalist movement, which I'm familiar with, it is playing very well into the future mobile world that we're very much right in the middle of right now. So you have 5G coming up, and though I know a lot of the people listening to this show won't understand this, as things get more mobile, design has to be more intuitive from a navigation perspective. That is what Google is looking for. That is what the web is looking for. So when you say minimalist, what I hear personally is like a forward-thinking, like transition into mobile. Is that playing into is that relevant to you at all?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and pair that with the pandemic, and a lot of things just by nature of that alone are causing people to do things via the internet or via, mobile communications and stuff like that. Just think of virtual tours. I mean, they used to just be someone would show up at a doorstep and you'd let them into a house and you'd walk around together. And of course now with the pandemic, and I think that this will change even once things settle down with the pandemic, is people are interested in just sitting from their living room and having an agent walk through a house and do what we're calling virtual tours. And so with that comes the introduction of video inside of the real estate industry. Of course, the video has to be brought to clients or people through social media, in a way that's just easy to consume and easy to digest. Because as we all know, we're moving and shaking, and we don't have a lot of time to do things, and we don't have patience to wait for things that aren't built right or are hard to navigate. And so that's what we're hoping to equip real estate agents with, which is just a really well-designed, easy to use and easy to consume tool that their clients can use.
Very cool. So John, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you have this deep history. Thanks for letting me take the floor for a moment. I have tons more questions, but I don't want to monopolize the show. So why don't you jump in?
Right. So Brian, you've kind of, the website doesn't give that much information about what the real nitty gritty of what Agent Engine is really going to be. I don't know how far you want to go into the nitty gritty, but one question is, a lot of agent websites, non-WordPress agent websites or SaaS-based models that provide agent website, they integrate IDX. And in 2020, I questioned the need for an agent to need IDX integration on their website. And a lot of these SaaS products utilize IDX and then asking for somebody's detail to find search properties. And I question that as an effective manner of getting the contact details of people, being that they can go to sites like realty.com and Zillow and have probably a more sophisticated experience. I know there was like two main key points in this question, but are you following what I'm saying? And I'd love to find out what your thoughts about using IDX in 2020 coming to 2021,
Yeah, we understand the technology and the need for IDX. Over the years at StudioPress, we had built a theme and a sort of a micro line of business called AgentPress, where we, worked with, I think IDX Broker was the main provider. They have a WordPress plugin. We styled things accordingly. And yes, to your point, on some level, there's, from a real estate listing and search standpoint, places like Redfin and Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, they will provide by far and away the best searching experience. And so there's a two-sided coin to the, should agents have listings on their website? One of which is, there's the argument that says, yes, they should, because you want to keep people on your website. You don't want to just send them off to Zillow where they could potentially find another agent, right? That's probably the biggest fear that agents have. And then there's the other side of it, which is, no, they don't, because they could send people to that, or even the brokerage websites that we've seen, the Century 21 websites for the agent will show their listings, and it will sort of keep them within like the safety zone of, I don't want to lose this to like another realtor. What we're planning on doing with AgentEngine, and I don't mind talking at this point, I know the website, to address your first point, is a little bit cryptic in what we're building, mostly on purpose. We just, I went out ahead of our development team to launch the brand and the newsletter and a forthcoming podcast. And now that the development has caught up a bit and we're closer to launch, I'm more happy to talk more about what we're building. So for the AgentEngine sort of profiles and websites that we're building for agents, we are facilitating a very, very lightweight enter in your own listing as part of your profile thing. Really just a matter of uploading, up to 10 photos for like a slideshow. You could just do some very basic things just to have that attached to your profile. And then of course there's we'll provide a button that will go off to view full listing, and you could specify where that goes to, whether it's Zillow, whether it's your brokerage version of the listing. And so, we're trying to keep it really simple for the agents. IDX integration from a legal perspective, from a technical and design and support perspective, is a pretty robust beast. So it's most definitely not going to be part of our MVP. And we'll see, we'll kind of gauge the field and see, is there a huge demand to, work with an IDX provider, pull an API and style stuff. But it's not part of our original offering, mostly on purpose.
We've got about another 2 to 3 minutes before we have to go for our break. So I'm just going to ask you a follow-up question, and then we'll probably go for our break, and then Robert can take over when we come back, Brian. But so I get from that is that in your mind, it's a fluid situation. You haven't totally dismissed the need for IDX for Pacific agents. But on the other hand, you don't think it's crucial either, because you probably would have it part of your setup from day one. Would that be a fair summarization of your position?
Yes, absolutely. As we just discussed, the listings themselves are on the internet and accessible in probably hundreds of places. What is not available to people and what most real estate agents don't have is either at all or a nice looking version of a representation of who they are, what we call a digital presence, right? Kind of like a digital business card that, showcases your brand and, gives a window into like what it is to work with you as a specific agent. And that's why we're building what we're building, which is really more of a profile and lightweight website builder. I hate to use builder because of the connotation that we get with WordPress, but it's really not that. It's really just a point and click system where real estate agents can get online, because a lot of agents don't even have a website, much less even entertaining the whole idea of whether or not we should pull an IDX. That's kind of like a second or third level deal. Like, let's just get them online and looking good, and they can link off to their listings and things like that. But, just a place for like JonathanSellsHomes.com, to be out in public and to be able to kind of proudly say, hey, I've got a website, and you can contact me through it. You can see where I represent and all those types of things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because a lot of agents, for understandable reasons, they're encouraged. They tend to rely on what the broker will provide in the brokerage. And there's all sorts of reasons why you should have your own presence. Well, thanks for that. We're going to go for our break. And when we come back, Robert, I'm sure, has got some more questions. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. It's gone quick. It's fascinating having Brian. He's got so much knowledge. Also, after Robert's asked a few questions, I'm going to be asking Brian about a studio agent and what Brian learned from that experience with StudioPress. But over to you, Robert.
Well, actually, I'd kind of like to maybe back the conversation up by a couple degrees. My perception, which is very limited, of you is that you're a developer and that you've just chosen to partner and use WordPress as a tool in order to provide some digital solutions to people, which, by the way, I don't have your skill set. I have a different skill set, but it's also the same decision I've made. I looked at all the tools that were around and all the possibilities, and I just kind of said, for my philosophies, WordPress matches the best in order to get a digital solution to people. Having said all that, I don't necessarily know, like, I'm kind of curious to know, like, you could build like a Linux stack or something, like you could do something totally different, something closer to what Sierra Interactive has done. You probably have the skill set, you have the backing, you have the finances if you wanted it. It sounds to me like you're once again choosing to do WordPress. Have you given any thought to doing this another way? And if so, do you mind sharing how you still decided to partner up with WordPress to do this latest offering?
Yes, that is a Pandora's box worth of questions there. So I will be.
I'm having an influence on Robert. His questions are getting as long-winded as mine.
No, I didn't call them long-winded. I just said there's a great detailed answer for your question, which kind of accommodates all the questions that you asked within it.
Okay.
So we are building AgentEngine right now on WordPress. From a database perspective, the real estate agents are not interacting with what we know as normal WordPress backend. And that is completely on purpose and completely because we're trying to take away the biggest pain point for them, which is understanding technology and what WordPress and plugins and dashboard updates and all of those things that we know and can look past are. So what we're building is a front end experience that's very point and click, very easy to set up a profile and a website. And in fact, we're hopefully going to pull it off in a way where agents don't even know they've built themselves a website until it's done. So we're using WordPress as a way to get to the market and more or less bring our MVP to basically just confirm what we think is true, which is real estate agents need this. Once we prove, hopefully, that this is the case, our plan is to then go pretty quickly into a V2 build, which will then become a custom build, however that works. Jason Schuler, one of the partners and the chief technical officer at our company, is going to man that thing because he's got a tremendous amount of experience building and overseeing teams and development and all of that stuff. So we're using WordPress, the agents are not, and we're moving to a hopefully custom solution once we've sort of proven that that real estate agents need what we have.
Okay. And I guess the answer that you kind of gave is you're choosing WordPress because it does allow you to adapt it in such a way that literally an agent won't know that they're using WordPress. If I'm understanding you correctly, they're not going to even know that they're necessarily building a like anything. They're They're gonna follow your script, for lack of any other better word, formula. And then when they're done, when they hit the last enter key, something's going to go live, and it's going to be a website, which happens to be on WordPress. Am I understanding you correctly?
Very, very much so. It's basically just like the interaction somebody would have with like Facebook. Like Facebook's not on WordPress, but pretend that it was. Facebook's the architecture of the database. All of the information in the meta and the user stuff is being stored inside of a WordPress database. But from a user perspective, it feels like they're just on Facebook, uploading their photo, their banner, entering information about their socials and things like that.
And is it fair to say that with the infrastructure that WordPress has already created, it made it a good tool to achieve that objective?
100%. That Jason said, hey, we can use WordPress and we can scale pretty far before we need to then go outside of it. So, and of course, it expedited our ability to get to the market because there was a lot of what we didn't have to build because of the way WordPress is built on the back end. So,
right. Because though the people listening to the show may not know, like with Gutenberg updates, drag and drop becomes a thing that you can do as a WordPress developer. It's something that me and my team are using. It took us a little bit of time to learn it, but now that we've learned it, it's increased our efficiencies a lot. This is something that's inherent in that environment, the WordPress environment. Like that's probably not necessarily 100% relevant to what you're doing, but it is an example of how they have a ecosystem that they've spent, I wouldn't even know, nor I doubt even you would, but they've spent all this time creating, and then guys like us can go in and tool around with it. And a lot of what we would normally need to get done has already been done for us. Is that a fair, you having more experiencing? Okay. So John, I still have tons I could would probably sit here for literally like 3 hours and just do this like this.
I'm sure
why do we not do that and let you ask another question?
I'm sure Brian will up for some bonus content, maybe 45 minutes in total, but he's not going to be with us for 3 hours.
Let's go. We can break this up into 2 or 3 shows. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, you have to come back in the new year, Brian, because
once we launch, yes, that'd be great.
I think that would be great, actually. Now, with your experience with StudioPress, you had Studio Agent, and their pitch was super local. It was that you could compete in SEO terms. Robert's the expert on this. Robert, with his company, Brian, builds super fantastic custom solutions on WordPress. And then with his clientele, he produces a lot of content jointly, or his own company produce a lot of content for his clientele. So they're into, on a higher level, Brian, into what Studio Agent was saying, the super local. So your new AgentEngine, are you following at all this, what you kind of stuck your flag in with Studio Agent, the super local? And just a quick follow through, you got Agent Fire that's doing WordPress. I'm sure you've looked at the competition. You got Agent Fire, and then you got Placer. It seems to me what you're saying is you're doing something that's like Agent Fire, but on the price and scale level of Placer, which is another word. The Placer people, I understand, they're using WordPress as well for their very basic solutions. Would I be right about this, Brian?
Yes. I mean, we obviously have done a lot of research around people who are out there in this space doing website things for real estate agents. Agent Fire being one of them, Luxury Presence being a very, very high-end version of, and they're more of a custom solution, just really, really high-end websites. And of course, Placer, we've actually done work with Frederick Towns, who I believe is their either CEO or CTO, but he's very, very high up in their company.
CMO.
CMO. Okay. I know that he did stuff with Mashable, and so he did work with us with Rainmaker and Web Synthesis back in the day. And so yes, we're very attuned to that. We are not by any stretch marketing ourselves as a WordPress anything, just because it's not. From a consumer standpoint, they don't, it's not they're buying a theme and they're going to work in WordPress or anything like that. And I think those both at least Playster and
they don't either, do they? I don't think they only marginally talk about WordPress, don't they?
But on some level, they're delivering a WordPress site to their clients. And so this is a little bit more of a SaaS-based thing where it will feel more like an app experience than it will a website building experience. We're handling a lot of the design control, almost all of it actually, and really taking out of the equation the pain points that, we don't want to even turn over a well-designed WordPress theme for an agent that they could then screw up, so on some level what we're building, I don't think exists in the market. We also have sort of an exploration / directory element to it, which I haven't really talked much about. That we'll have at AgentEngine, where consumers can look for agents, and there will be ways to search for agents. Maybe you're moving to Portland and you want to, you've heard of AgentEngine, and you can go there and you can, sort of have a curated list of, agents that are highly rated in the Portland area, and have a visual representation through the profile system of who they are and ways to contact them and whatnot. So it's not just software for agents. There's, I'm a community builder. I love networking and working with people and, connecting people sort of in an assimilation perspective. And so there's a multifaceted approach to what we're building. And, through the evolution of the development of the product, everything has come together in a really, really nice way. And we're really excited to hit the market.
So what I think you're saying is that you think you got something new to offer with a market fit, as we would say in the
product market fit is what our other partner, Tony Clark's always talking about, right? So got to be the right product market fit. So,
well, we're coming to the half-hour mark, so we're probably going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. It's gone amazingly quickly. We're going to have some bonus content, which you'll be able to see on the MailRight YouTube channel. I advise you to go to the channel and subscribe to it, and you'll be able to see the whole interview. I'm sure I think Brian's agreed to stay on for another 15 minutes.
Yep.
And hopefully we're back in the new year when AgentEngine is actually totally launched, and we can then discuss things in even more detail. So over to you, Robert, so we can wrap up the podcast part of the show.
Right. All right. So thank you for tuning in for episode 269. For those of you who are in your cars, we appreciate the patronage. Do us a favor and share the fact that we have amazing interviews with guys like Brian every week on the MailRight podcast. So Brian, if somebody was so inclined, where would you like them to go look up more information, either about yourself or about AgentEngine?
Myself, BrianGardner.com is where I sort of personally conduct business. It's really just more about, entrepreneurial experiences and where I'm available for design work. Outside of that, and more importantly, is AgentEngine.com. And from there, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. Every week I write about just stuff, how to, leverage technology and social media for agents and teams to build and grow their business. And so a lot of that is just through the experience I've had, copy blogger and email marketing, and the importance of all of that design, conversion, lead capture, and just all the stuff I've encountered, even from StudioPress, just building and designing for, we've got 250,000 users, customers that have bought through StudioPress. So just a lot of experience working with people online digitally. So, and the bottom of our website is our social links. I have not been able to secure at AgentEngine on all of them, though I'm working diligently to do so, thanks to the squatters of the world. So I just say, go to agentengine.com, sign up for the newsletter, go to the bottom, start clicking all our socials, and follow whatever is necessary for you.
Amazing. All right. So John, if somebody was so inclined, how would they get in touch with you?
The best way is go to the MailRight website. It's got all the interviews on that with a full set of show notes, plus all the links that we talk about with our guests and our internal show. Or you can go to the MailRight YouTube channel and subscribe to that. You get all the interviews plus the bonus content. They're the best ways, Robert.
Wonderful. And of course, I'm Robert Newman. And if you want to find out more about me or how to learn how to do inbound marketing, you can do so on my website, inboundrem.com. I follow my own philosophy and give away all of my knowledge for free, the same thing I tell my clients to do. And hopefully I suspect that if you are interested in how to generate leads or how to do it digitally, that my website will help you, and it will help you at no charge. So for those who are going to stay on, tune into YouTube for the remaining 10 minutes. And we're going to go to break. All right, so welcome back. We're here for the bonus content with Brian Gardner, who is the co-founder of AgentEngine, founder of StudioPress, partner and chief product officer, formerly of Copyblogger. And we're wrapping up our final, we're going to do a little bit of bonus content here. So Brian, I'm going to say that I read the titles of some of your blog posts that you put on AgentEngine. And if you had to give some advice, so you have all this experience, you're digitally savvy, you're digging into the real estate industry, what would your top couple pieces of digital advice be to an agent? Let's just say either a new agent or maybe somebody who's not a new agent, but has not yet embraced digital. What would you tell that person if they called you up on the phone because they knew you and they said, Brian, I know you're into this digital stuff, which, by the way, countless people have said to me, by the way. So that's a real introduction. And then they go, what would you tell me to do as a real estate agent?
Well, and I have planted my flag firmly on this phrase because it's on the front of our homepage right now. The future of real estate is digital. It's not necessarily the future because it already has been in the past, but it's a lot more than it ever has been and will be. Digital is 100%. It's the future of everything, basically. But because I feel real estate's a little bit more antiquated than most industries, agents really need to hear that, and they need to get online, and they need to understand social media and technology, even at a basic level. They don't need to become a power this or a power that, or some do, because there are savvy people who understand technology and they like that stuff. I have a real estate agent friend of mine who's handled many transactions, and I just Zoomed with her the other day, and she's like 62, and she's like, Brian, I'm trying to figure out this tech thing, right? Like you called it, this digital stuff, because there is a wave of younger, more ambitious, we call them millennials, but
right.
And even there's going to even be another generation fairly soon here coming of hungry, thirsty, ambitious people, entrepreneur types who are going to really make a dent into your potential client list because that's their life. They understand technology and social media. And so for some of the middle to older age agents, I know it's a little bit scary, and I know it might feel hard at times. So my advice to those people, find someone who you can work with, hire somebody. AgentEngine is supposed to be a tool that will help even the ones with the most inexperience do it in a way where that empowers them. And they're like, wow, this was so much easier than I thought it would be. And that's kind of the bread and butter of what we're hoping to deliver. But just the digital experience is where everyone is going right now. And that will not change.
Maybe if you want to skip this question, skip it. I'm telling everybody on the show, I'm throwing a question. You may not be ready to answer it yet, which is, you obviously are familiar with the competition. You've taken a look at all these services. Can you give us like a vague idea of where your pricing entry point is? Is this going to be at the lower part of the market so that just about anybody could sign on? Or are you aiming this maybe more towards the middle of the market? Because I'd like to know, like our users, John and I, we target separate parts of the real estate industry. I'm looking for experienced veterans who are looking for a long-term solution and have a budget. His service might be somebody who's just getting into it, who's looking for something to generate them some leads, but doesn't have the $1,500 a month for me or Boomtown or whoever it is, right? That's a lot of money for a lot of real estate agents. So can you give us an understanding so our audience knows maybe who should bookmark you and should be following you? Like, is it the newer agents, so on and so forth?
Yeah. So when I say entry level, I'm not referring to the the Bluehost WordPress $4.99 entry level. Relative to the real estate industry, it's going to be more entry to mid level than it will be, middle to upper level. We are not necessarily designed for top producers because presumably they already have an amazing website, and that's what helps make them a top producer. And so we are looking for people who are new to the industry, people who don't have a website presence, people who are kind of the common agent in the sense, like it may not be their entire life. Maybe it's a mom who has kids that are in school and she's doing it part-time and just needs, sort of some semblance of a digital presence. And so that's the type of person who we're going after.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the illumination. John,
Sure.
We've got a few minutes left here in the bonus content. Do you want to hand off the last series of questions to Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. So, with your experience with StudioPress and Studio Agent, what's your thoughts about its main pitch was being super local? Do you still believe in that concept of the super local agent, and by being that, he can directly compete with sites like Zillow and Redfin?
So years ago, through the Copy Blogger and Agent Press experience, we talked a lot about hyperlocal, right? That was sort of the buzzword from a few years back, and it is still a strategy. I think with sort of the explosion of social media and video and things like that, how hyperlocal actually is built is different. I think kind of traditionally it's been seen more of like evergreen content and written word and stuff like that. And I think people kind of locked in on that. And I don't have time to do like a 12-month or a 6-month written thing. I don't write. I can't do any of that stuff. But
that's what Robert's team does for his.
Yeah, and there's still 100. And Brian Clark created a site called Your Boulder, and there's several. And I just linked to them in a few issues ago on the newsletter. Just talking about being a local expert. And so there's still and always will be sort of an element of importance around what we call being the mayor of your community, right? Which is understanding the area, being able to refer clients to places to eat. In fact, this Sunday night, I'll be publishing the latest version of the AgentEngine newsletter, and I'm talking very specifically about this, just sort of being the influencer within your community, right? And so I believe that is still a thing. I think it's very important for agents to use sort of as a value proposition to potential buyers and sellers, understanding the area, knowing how to market their house, helping them find the right places to get into. So yeah, I still think hyperlocal and that whole thing is still important. It just looks a little bit different than it did 5 years ago.
Yes, I understand what you mean. So I think by your answer to that is that it's just changed because technology has moved on. That really you're looking at more visual, like Instagram stories, video on Facebook. It's a more diverse landscape than when you were talking about that when Studio Agent was being formatted. Would that be correct, Brian?
100%. Yeah. Instagram stories and some of the best hyperlocal sites I've seen now, or not even hyperlocal sites, but just hyperlocal movements, the hyperlocal brands, people who are doing things in their community are doing it by way of Instagram stories or Facebook lives and things like that. Backed, of course, by, evergreen content, because long tail search is always going to be a thing. I don't think, anyone will have a personal website and ever outrate Zillow for Denver homes for sale. But, talking about like the local, barbershop or where the best hot dog in town is, that could be something that would be somebody who is looking to move to the area. They may find you that way. So I certainly suggest and advise that people, it shouldn't be the first thing they consider when they get online, but it most definitely should be part of their business.
Now, I get a lot of agents, especially at the beginning, they're bombarded by a number of tools that are freely available, or they have to pay for a number of tools that come from their brokerage. And a lot of states, you have to be part of a brokerage to be a licensed real estate agent. My advice is look at some of those tools, maybe use them, but really you've got to understand that you're in association with your agent, with your brokerage, but you're also working for yourself. Why do you feel it's still so important for the agent to have their own digital presence that's under their direct control, Brian?
It's a great question, and something that when we first started this, I was slightly misaligned with was the myth that real estate agents are locked into their brokerage and they're controlled by them and can't do anything outside of what the brokerage wants them to do. That was sort of a practice, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago when the brokerages footed a lot of the marketing costs and things like that. What's happened is I think the amount of agents now sort of exceeds their ability to sort of house all of that. And so one of the things that when we were conducting interviews with agents that we learned was that real estate agents felt like independent contractors. And that was sort of a resounding sentiment. And in fact, they actually, I think, legally are in some cases independent contractors. And so they cover their own a lot of things, some even insurance, some, marketing, some whatever. And so the agents, in the spirit of trying to compete against either agents, even in their brokerage or just outside of it, they have the ability to, and sort of the free reign to do whatever they want. And so, the more present they can be on social media or anywhere digitally, and to have a really well designed, even if it's just a very simple elementary sort of interpretation of what their website would be at a minimal cost. I mean, what we're looking to price AgentEngine at is nothing compared to if it even gets 1 or 2 extra closings a year, will completely ROI that experience. And so, so there's a lot of opportunity and there's going to be a lot of competition. So,
and I think what a lot of agents, just to wrap up, I think what a lot of agents don't understand, there are a lot of agents that utilize what I've generally called the Buffini method, where they're using very tight personal relationships. But I think more and more the consumer's becoming more and more digitally savvy, and they expect a certain presence of a digital presence from the agent that they're going to hire. Would you agree with that, Brian?
I do. In fact, the real estate agent I was just talking about, she has a tremendous referral system here in Chicagoland area. A lot of her sales and listings just come from word of mouth or, like with us, repeat clients. But on some level, that can only get you so far. Some people move out of state and that referral list starts to kind of go away. And you've got to have some plans, some way to compete against, the guy or gal down the street who's got, who's on social media, who's out and about, who's getting shared, who's developing a personality within the community. Like at some level, these sort of older school agents, that more traditional types, are going to get left in the dust because everything's moving and shaking and, all of that. And so I commend the agent that we have, the person I'm friends with. She's trying really hard and doing a great job. In fact, I kind of joked when we got on Zoom, I said, wow, you got on Zoom the second you click the button. Normally it takes people 5 minutes to figure out Zoom. So you're already a step ahead of the game. So, and I think that the writing on the wall with the pandemic has been, I think even from a family point of view, like these agents are trying to talk to their family members. And so they have to do the Zoom thing. So there's sort of like these sort of sideways technology advances that they're getting just because of the pandemic, which will help them as they go back and hopefully, kind of resume normal activity when it comes to real estate.
Well, Brian, it's been, I think, an excellent discussion. Thank you so much to come on the show. Hopefully you will come back in the new year when,
of course,
AgentEngine is ready to launch. And it's just been fabulous talking to you. And I wish you a great Thanksgiving for you and your family. And you'll be joining us on my other podcast in the new year. And I really look forward to that discussion. We're going to wrap it up now. Robert did a fantastic job for our podcast. We'll see you next week with either another, not next week, we're not going to actually have a show next week. But the following week, we got another fabulous guest, and it should be a great show. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
It was great.
I could talk about this all day long.